2 springs or 1.5 springs, tennis ball in between the knees, heels on the bar, parallel. Spine curls with plies on the heels. Tuck the tail, lift up, press the carriage out, lower the pelvis down, lift up, draw the carriage in, and then roll through the spine. Breathe out to tuck and lift. Breathe in to push out and lower. Breathe out to lift and draw the bed back in, and then roll through the spine. The target area is the back of the legs, drawing the sit bones towards the thighs. The challenge there is to keep the pelvis and spine in neutral, and then posteriorly tilt, really tuck the tailbone up to the ceiling as you roll up and down. Lengthen through from heels to head. Hamstrings are working to keep the bed in at the stopper as you roll up and down. Squeeze the tennis ball ever so slightly, particularly when you draw the bed back in. Really great for the back of the legs. The challenge is to push out, maintain that straight spine and pelvis, draw it back in, and then curve the spine as you roll down. Get rid of the tennis ball. Grab hold of the little rods either side of your ears. Hip rolls with extension, lower and lift. You roll over onto one hip, straighten the legs, lower the legs, lift, bend, and return back to the center. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, return. Keep both shoulder blades plugged down into the carriage, lifting the hip up but keeping that same shoulder as the hip that lifts down onto the carriage. The target area of the obliques, really stabilizing by pushing through the opposite shoulder. So here, press through the left shoulder as you lower them over to the right, and then use your waist muscles to return back to center. Make sure you're neutral. Mini pulses plus obliques. Hands behind your head, lift the head and the chest up. Neutral pelvis, lift your chest, lower an inch down, and then pulse. 2, 3, 4. Keep the pelvis in neutral, drawing the pubic bone, zip it up towards your belly button, then into obliques. So lift, rotate the left shoulder blade up, lower it down an inch, and then pulse. 2. So you're pulsing the left shoulder blade off, but you're actually sort of pivoting around your bra line there. So in fact, both shoulders are off, back through center, then the right shoulder. You lift, you lower, and then you pulse. Focusing on zipping the pubic bone up towards your belly button, but the tailbone is in contact with the carriage. Back through center, lower your head down, keep your hands behind the head, have a little rest, and then lift your head and your chest up, toe taps. Tap one toe down, back up, tap the other toe down, back up, tap both toes down and back up. Pivoting in the hip rather than bending the knee. So you really lever those thigh bones away from your center. The head and the chest is being held up by the abdominals, and your biceps are holding the weight of your head. So lift your head and your chest up, so you're on your bra line area at the base of the shoulder blades, and then press your head back into your hands so your neck is soft. Change the spring so it's 1.5 springs. So that's 1 full spring, 1 half spring. Curl ups with extension. Knees up into tabletop. Breathe out to lift up. Breathing in to return. 10 of these. Maintaining a neutral pelvis and spine. Pressing the hands into the straps from the abdominals. The legs are in parallel. As you straighten the legs, squeeze the legs together, and the hands hover up just above the hip bones at the side there. Have a little rest, then we're going into hundreds with bend and stretch. Hands above the shoulder rest, lift your knees up into tabletop, legs are together, lift and extend, and then pulse your arms as you bend and straighten the legs. Keeping the feet on the same plane as you push out and in. Trying to get the legs nice and low now as you're progressing. Reaching the calves just up above the bar. But only do that as long as you don't bulge your abdominals. Pressing the armpits towards the hips to help you anchor down through the lats. Breathe in to straighten and then return back into the stopper. Have a little rest. The next exercise is coordination. We're doing 10 of these. Arms up above the shoulders, knees up into tabletop. Lift up, extend, open and close the legs, bend the knees and return back to the start position. Breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out, open, close, breathe in. Really try and curve the upper body so that you lift your shoulder blades off, drawing your ribs towards your hips and opening and closing, keeping pelvic stability. Have a rest. Then we go into Nutcracker. Hands in a diamond, legs are straight up to the ceiling, so index and thumb are touching. Open your legs, reach the hands towards the bar. 10 of these. 3, 4, so your fingers are creating a diamond shape. 5, 6, draw the heels together. 7, zipping the inside thighs together. 8, breathe out to lift, into lower. 9, last one. 10. Put your feet down, have a rest. Then we're going into reverse single leg stretch. Hands above shoulders. Reach the legs out over the bar, that's the start position. Bend one knee, lower the arms down. Bend one knee, lower the arms down. The challenge here is to hold the legs out straight without arching your the lower back. We want to maintain a neutral lower back, a neutral pelvis. When you reach the legs out, zip the waist in like you're doing up a tight belt. Out through the mouth, in through the nose, and then place the feet down. We're going into semicircle plus reverse. We're going to do a spring change. One spring on the middle, and it is important that the spring is in the middle because we're going to use that to place the tailbone on. Roll onto your back, put your feet up on the bar, and then you've got to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. If you've got bare skin like me, it can get stuck, so you're going to have to shimmy down like I just did. And then press the heels, the hands into the shoulder rest. The tailbone is touching that spring in the center. The feet are in V. So you're going to tuck the tail under, roll up, reach the knees away from you, press the carriage 3/4 of the way out, roll through the spine, tailbone touches the spring, scrape the tailbone along the spring. Breathe out to roll up, keep the heels together. Breathe in to push out, keep the heels together. Breathe out, roll down, keep the carriage still. Breathe in, bend using the back of the legs. Reach the knees up and away from you. Engage your buttocks to open the hips at the front. Articulate through your spine. Now we're reversing. Scrape the tailbone along the spring. Tuck your tailbone up, lift up, keep the heels together, draw the heels into your coccyx, and then roll down through the spine. Touch the tailbone to the spring, scrape it along the spring, tuck under, squeeze the heels together, the knees are apart, draw the bed in, and then articulating through the spine. The upper shoulders are soft, but the heels of your hands are pressing into the shoulder rests. Beautiful stretch for the thighs and the front of the hips. And then wiggling back onto the carriage. We're doing scooter, C-curve and flat back. C-curve. Press back and forward, no hands. The weight is definitely pressing back into the heels. So you feel like you're really sitting back in a chair. The target area are the glutes, particularly on that supporting leg. Try and keep the supporting leg really still as you do a pendulum action through that left leg, keeping the pubic bone towards your chest. Now into flat back, pressing back and forward about 10 of each. The challenge here is to keep the lower back still, a little hollow in the lower back while you're pendulum action through that left thigh against the carriage. Target area glutes, definitely shifting the weight back. It's a stability challenge as well as strengthening for the glutes. Bring the carriage into the stopper and then do the other side. Shift your weight back, knees are even, C-curve, so I'm feeling my ribs connect to my pubic bone there, and then put your hands around your waist so you really feel your tummy scooping and hollowing in. Do not bulge your belly out. Your pubic bone is tucking up towards your sternum. Your buttocks is contracted throughout the whole time, even on the way back in. Feel like your weight is sitting back onto a chair. The challenge is stability, keeping the left side very still. Straighten out your spine, neutral pelvis, neutral spine, and then pressing the carriage back and forward. Even on the way in, you want to contract the right butt cheek. Lengthen sit bones and ears in the opposite direction. Keep your obliques engaged. Have your hands around your waist like a belt, feeling your belt draw in a notch. Out through the mouth, in through the nose, about 10 of each of these. Hands on the bar, curve your spine, and then hop off there. Now we're going into knee stretch, curved, flat, and sprint legs. 2 springs are on, so 2 full strong springs. It is very strong, so do anywhere between 6 to 10 of these. Hands on the bar, sit back on your heels, and then tuck and lift in the curve. Now push back and forward. Try and keep your arms and your shoulders very still as the thighs pendulum in the hips, keeping the lower spine tucked, C-curve through the spine. You'll really feel it in your glutes, your thighs, keeping your upper body very stable, anywhere between 6 to 10. Now into a flat back, so you're still lifted up off your heels, out into a flat back. Start with the carriage a little bit away from the stopper. Now you're pushing the knees back and forward within a range that you can keep your arms and your shoulders very still. Deep abdominals are stabilizing your torso and your lats. So really wide shoulder blades pressing the heels and the hands into the bar. Anywhere between 6 to 10. Now into sprint legs. So curve your spine, step your left foot towards the front and grip with the toes. Now lift up, shift your weight back, and then pendulum action through your thighs. So the idea here is to get a feeling of the knees being off the carriage whilst you're lifting up and out through your lower back. Place the knee down, put the left leg back, and then step your right foot forward towards the front. Grip, your feet are in line with the shoulder S. Lift up in the C-curve, pendulum action. Once again, keep the arms as still as you can. I'm actually moving them a little bit here. Try and keep them even stiller than I am. Really press the armpits towards the bar and then place the knee down. That'll build your strength up for knee stretch where both knees are off. So now spring change, 1 spring, up stretch 3. Start in a downward facing dog or pyramid position. Tuck the tail under, the buttocks and the lower abdominals are co-contracted. Press out 1, pivot in the shoulders 2, hinge back as far as you can 3, and then scoop your belly and draw the bed in and press the bed into the stopper at the end there. Press out into a plank 1, hinge forward 2, hinge back as far as you can 3, and then try and tuck your pubic bone towards your face to return the bed back into the stopper. Breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, and then breathe in. Scoop the belly in. Keep the arms still. Now move the arms back. Now try and keep the arms still as you C-curve tucking under. Good. Shoulder stability. Strengthen your shoulders. Strengthen your shoulders. Shoulder stability with deep abdominals and thighs. Anywhere between 6 to 10 of these. The further you go back, the more challenging it's going to be to stabilize your spine. Only push the carriage back within a range that you feel like you're engaging your abdominals and not your lower back. My buttocks is contracted. My feet are against the shoulder rest, but I'm squeezing the legs in towards one another to activate the inside thighs. Keep the collarbones away from the ears so the shoulder blades are nice and wide. Draw the bed into this carriage and then place your knees down into down stretch. Still one spring. Push the carriage back so the bed is away from the stopper. Curve the spine. Press the carriage away. Draw the carriage all the way in. Lift your chest up. Press back and then up and forward. Breathe out. Breathe in. Ribs to hips and then arch the upper spine. We're pivoting in the shoulders, trying to stabilize and keep the pelvis and the waist and the legs still. So you're arching the upper spine and then you're contracting, returning to a neutral. Thoracic extension and then return to neutral. The ribs lift up away from the pelvis, the ribs tuck towards your pelvis and then C-curve the bed into the stopper. We're going into abduction and adduction exercises to finish off. We're going to put one spring on, put the foot plate down, the foot bar down rather. Step onto the foot plate. Now, skating one with the opposite arm. We're moving the carriage leg only and then the opposite arm. This is about stabilizing the supporting leg and stabilizing the torso. Moving the carriage leg and the opposite arm without disrupting the stability through your torso and the leg. The target area of the glutes, you're very much so sitting back into the heels. 10 of those, then the other side. So this is quite challenging here. So now we're keeping the carriage side very still with the leg. We're moving the foot bar side and then reaching the opposite arm. Scapula laterally rotates as you reach the arm over your head so you're not pulling the collarbone up around your ear. Our target area once again are the glutes. Definitely gets into your thighs as well. And the challenge is to stay very low, like the ceiling is right against your back there, so no option to go up and down. Skating 3, now don't look towards the back of the reformer, look towards the outside of the reformer, then to the back and return, if that makes sense. Pushing out with both legs this time. Synchronizing the movement so both legs extend at the same time without bobbing up and down through your torso. The scapula rotate laterally. Torso stability whilst moving both arms and legs. Do not rotate around through your torso. And then 10 of those. Now hop off safely, step off. Now we step up onto the foot plate first and then up onto the carriage. Bend your knees, so skating 1, we move the carriage leg and the opposite arm. Stabilizing the pelvis, stabilizing the shoulder girdle whilst you move those limbs. If I was to poke around my deep abdominals, then my belly is drawing in flat to support my back, my pelvic floor is lifted up internally. Now, I was feeling pretty exhausted at this stage, so if you need a rest, feel free to do that. And then the other side, so you're pushing the carriage leg out and then the opposite arm, anywhere between 6 to 10 of these. Obliques are helping you keep the pelvis square to the floor. The scapula is laterally rotating so that you can keep the collarbone away from the ear as you reach the arm over the head. Stand up, have a little breather, and now into skating 3. So we start looking away and then towards the back of the reformer. And look to the back of the reformer, try and touch the back of the reformer. Really press both legs out, straightening both legs simultaneously, bending both legs simultaneously. You're pivoting around your torso there, you're pivoting around the neck is actually pivoting there, but you're trying to keep your torso as still as possible. Okay, step onto the foot plate to come off. And now we're going into adduction with a roll down. Now we want a very light spring here, half a spring, because we're focusing on our inside thighs. It's a light spring, so do not step onto the carriage because you could fall off it. Step onto the foot plate first, then into the center or thereabouts. Arms are out. So press the carriage out, lift the arms up, inhale. Press the arms out to T, and now squeeze the legs together for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1, and then open out. And then if I was to poke around my inside thighs there, really firm, pressing the bed in at the stopper. And then you'll feel this gorgeous lift up through your core as you do that. Anywhere between 3 to 6 of these. The lighter the spring, the harder it is. So if this is too much for you, you just put on a little more tension. Now roll through the spine, try and keep the bed in at the stopper there. That's the challenge. So as you do the roll down and up, you've got to keep the bed in at the stopper. Don't let it bump in and out. And that'll really target the inside thighs. Step up onto the foot plate and then onto the carriage. The leg is in towards the center of the carriage, arms out, neutral pelvis and spine, reaching up and over, and then return with the length. Pubic bone to navel, sternum lifted. Inhale, pressing out as far as you can. Exhale, inside thighs, lift. Between 6 to 10 of these, maybe 3 to 8 of these. Just do what you can. Make sure it's even on both sides though. Such a great exercise for strengthening the inside thighs and the pelvic floor. Keep the bed in at the stopper, roll through the spine. Keep the bed in at the stopper as you roll up. You should really feel that. And then step onto the foot plate to hop off. And then our final exercise is tendon stretch. Put the foot bar up. We have a sticky mat is very important for this exercise. Don't put it on the bar like I have. You actually need to put it at the front of the carriage, and that's so you don't slide. Okay, so that's just the sticky mat that I have is just one of those sticky things that you put underneath a chopping board, so they're fantastic. Okay, feet in a V, hands on the bar, heels together, head is down, breathing out to push the carriage back. So you push the carriage back, keep the heels together, 1, draw the heels underneath the bar, 2, lift the heels up, 3, and then return to the start position, 4. Squeeze the kneecaps up, keep the kneecaps straight as you draw the heels down. Tuck the tail, imprint your lower back, and then roll on your tailbone as you return back in. Breathing out to straighten, breathing in to lower, breathing out to lift, scoop the belly, and then breathing in to return. Keep the upper shoulders nice and soft. Breathing out through the mouth, breathing in, flex, feel the nerve stretch. And then eventually we bend the elbows even more there so that your forehead is towards the floor. So try and touch your forehead towards your knees, bend your elbows as you flex, lift and imprint, and then keep imprinting the spine back as you roll underneath. Anywhere between 6 to 8 of these. Just unwinding at the end of the class. Well done, guys. You have successfully completed level 4. You are officially cooked.